Alright, bro. Okay. Medyo, ito yung mga bardagulan episodes dahil natin. Okay. How should I put
Ito
it?
bonus episode lang to, mabilis lang to. What's up? What's
It's
up?
more than bonus. Ito, ganito na lang kasi, Lelo. Okay. I'll be very honest about it. Okay, ganito. One reason I really like you and Joseph Scalise a lot as comrades and all is because I think all of us appreciate the notion of burden of responsibility, right? And that true intellectual courage inevitably could mean
It's into trouble.
and you in the political orphanage, right? Let's just be honest about it.
Yun. Malungkot.
It's and of course, siguro kung naging trapo tayong dalawa, I think we'll have a life 10 times more comfortable, right? Materially, psychologically. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just be brutally honest, Lela. Have you thought about it?
Mental, it doesn't help your mental health to be politically flexible, actually. It really doesn't.
Yeah, and you could, be in your echo chamber and get all the praise and so. We don't have that. We have very few people who are as makulit as us, right? I mean, I literally can count how many people. Like, there's you, there's Joseph, etc. Well, I can see other people, even if they lost in elections or whatever, they have their echo chambers, they're gonna be fine. That's gonna be their, their antawag doon, mga solace, right? That will be their anonymous, whatever. We don't have that. Our anonymous is this. This is our therapy, bro. Like,
yun na. Oh.
Yeah. At the same time, though, bro, I'm not complaining, right? I would have appreciated if you guys are a little bit more active also on social media in ways of pushing back. No, you have been doing that in many ways, but my sense is, I don't know. Like, in your case, my sense is push back against you. Like, my sense is part of you kind of like just lost appetite after some kerfuffle you had a few months ago. And
yes.
Let's be honest, a part of you just want to say, like, screw it all. I have so much to do, work, I have so much stuff. And I kind of felt, a part of me felt like, okay, I understand you, bro, but it would be nicer if I don't have to do this alone, right? Because honestly, I feel like already alone ideologically, but like I literally am alone on Twitter bashing back all of these really toxic people. So kanina, Lelo, tell me if I'm making sense. Okay, you tell me now, huh? I tagged Lenny, who follows me on Twitter, and said, maybe it's time for Lenny to call out some of these, at least some, you can name more, some of these anonymous, accounts na super toxic, are trying to cancel out Vico Soto because he's not as dilawan as they want him to be. They're canceling me out in many ways. They're just bashing me right and left. Nakita ko the other day, pati si Tarantadong Kalbo, biglang may pa-chip shot pa siya sa akin, nilagay ako dun sa cartoon. Parang,
ano sabi ni Tarantadong Kalbo
sa'yo? Like, parang, di ba yung Magellan Jr. Kasi, let's be honest, I kind of popularized that. Like, come on.
Totoo naman, oo.
So, they made...
Gago yung Jeopardy. I'm sorry, Jeopardy. Give the man his props.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they made the whole meme out of that, of me. Like, oh, parang attention-seeking, Karen, whatever. But I was even half sarcastic, nakaganyan pa ako, di ba? So I sense that they're trying to cancel me by trying to portray me as a diva, etc. But seriously, right? I mean, so my point is, I said, I think what I should have said, which is what also the Robredo daughters were saying last year. Now, you cannot convert people. You cannot win elections with this toxicity, with attacking other people, elitism, etc. But anyways, I'm just saying my heart out here because, you're a friend. I trust you and I trust people are watching us, etc. Medyo more open. But you tell me. That's why I was watching Navalny just the other day to feel, am I doing the right thing? I mean, being active on social media while doing my, academic, scholarly, intellectual work. And then I watched Navalny and I felt vindicated because he did TikTok, he fought people right and left. That's really the best way to reach out people. So I don't know. You tell me, bro. I mean,
let's see where I am in a year, and if I can wade back into Twitter. I'm gonna think about it. I just need to finish my book now. I promised my publisher. I can't announce. I have a publisher for my book already. Can't announce the publisher yet, but I promised my publisher that I would get it to them by November. And I also have a tentative title. The Profligate Colonial: The Making of an Austerity State in the Philippines. So when I get that done,
then you're gonna have a war after that. Is that what you're saying?
I'll think about it. Pero kasi I have to admit, similar experiences like that were really bad for my mental health, and that's why I've pulled out of Twitter. And as you say, it's very lonely, and I just, sometimes I have to pick my battles. But if they're doing things like that to friends like you, I mean, it is really disconcerting. And there are a lot of people who feel the same way we do. It's just very difficult to voice it in public because of the polarized nature of politics right now, di ba? There are people na kunwari makainuman mo, maka-chat mo, ganyan, they'll say, grabe naman yung toxicity ng Dilaw, minimirror na nila yung toxicity nung kabila. And they were supposed to be the antidotes to that, di ba? The problem is they haven't been. And of course, for us, di ba, one of the original sins in this respect is electoral denialism on the part of the Dilaw. The people who complained na, unfair daw yung election, and who used, bad data in order to do that, diba? That's, I think that was a kind of moment for us where we said, this is sad because the people we expect to correct the disinformation are actually peddling disinformation themselves. And, it's very, that's heartbreaking because, I mean, during the election, I mean, ano rin naman ako I was consumed by pink fever as well. I was inspired. But then the moment you see that, it's just like, oh my God, parang wala. I feel like I do feel a little bit like a political orphan. But I guess my question for you is, why do you bother? Why do you bother pushing against these?
Someone has to be the idiot to do this, right? Someone has to be the idiot. I just realized if I don't do this, who's gonna call out this? Because let's look at it this way. If these toxic people are gonna stick around and they keep on doing what they're doing, they're giving a bad name to the entire democratic progressive opposition, right? They're making the job difficult for all of us or trying to convince the Filipino people that there's a better future, that there's a more effective delivering participatory democracy option there. No, so and then of course they also give bad name to Lenny because a lot of these people, kind of supported the campaign or at least pretend to be Lenny supporters, etc. So my point is there no one to call them out? Like because Lele, what you said is also many people told me it's like, it's yung mga pichugin na yan na may pake ka, diba? Like, Richard, come on, you're an established guy. Why are you? I said, exactly. I'm not spending this because of political reasons. I'm doing this because someone had to do this because I just don't feel anyone. No one's. I mean, Lela, I'll push it a little bit. Okay, a good friend of us, binastos siya many times. This is a person, is a political scientist running one of the biggest firms in this country, right? Survey firms, right? We both love this person, right? And like the way binabastos siya over and over again. Tapos na nga elections, kailangan natin yung pulse station service to show na yung chacha na nila Robin. Walang
he was called by one of the most important novelists in Philippine history. He was called I'm Marcos tool, effectively, by somebody so prominent and somebody I admire, and it really just broke my heart.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, look, someone has to call out this toxicity, right? I mean, they're pissing us off, and my worry, Lelo, is that you and I think we're clear about our convictions and red lines, but my fear is there are a lot of people out there who will go to the other side because they're just so sick and tired of these guys. That's my fear. There are a lot of people because they just hate so much the toxicity of this Dilaw
and the moralizing. I mean, I've had arguments, of course, with Thinking Pinoy and other people like that, I've also had arguments with Get Real Philippines. But sometimes nakikita mo what are the origin stories of these people. These are people who actually came from Ateneo, UP Diliman, and they got frustrated with the moralizing of these people, right? And they got frustrated by the close-mindedness of these people to kind of alternative ways of telling history. Now, I don't agree where that disillusionment brought them. I don't think it should lead you to a pro-Marcos or pro-Duterte position. But I do share the kind of disillusionment, and I'm not going to just condemn them as like crackpots just because of that, because it comes from a real disillusionment. Now, you want to create more people like this who are disillusioned with you because you are so moralizing. I mean, just go ahead, right? Go ahead and do it. This weekend, Richard, I was just what people should watch. What's the most important movie according to some movie critics in Philippine film history? It's Himala by Ishmael Bernal. Right. And how does Himala end, diba? Kasi in Himala is really a story of us looking for saviors in individual people, diba? So in the movie, people thought Elsa was the Nora character. Elsa was the kind of savior, and at one point she said, "I'm not your savior. Walang Himala." And people couldn't take that, right? People couldn't take the fact na walang Himala because she said, "Walang Himala, tayo ang Himala." And what they did was effectively they shot her. And the way Ishmael Bernal films that shot is the camera takes on the position of the gun, right? So it's almost like the audience is shooting is shooting Elsa. And what's the message there? The message there is walang himala. We shouldn't look for our salvation in leaders, in camps. We should be able to work that out ourselves. And I think the problem with society today is naghahanap tayo ng himala. Naghanap tayo ng himala kay Lenny. Naghanap tayo ng himala kay Ferdinand Marcos. When what we should be doing is just taking responsibility for what we do and taking responsibility for the way we think. Because if you outsource your thinking, you say, okay, ito yung sinasabi ng Twitter, ito yung sinasabi ng team ko, everything I think is based on what they say. That's really easy kasi in-outsource mo na yung utak mo eh. When you don't outsource your utak and you realize that there is no himala, that's kind of really scary position, because you're effectively left on your own. Sure, you have friends, but you have your own. So I think we also, it behooves us to challenge people to do that, but also to acknowledge that, if people do that, they end up in a very lonely position. They end up in this position where we are, where, if you have to
Do you have
deal
any
with
blueprint in
mental
mind?
health issues. Yeah.
Do you have a blueprint in mind of like how do we get out of this it's this downward spiral situation, right? Either people are zoning out or like just logging off, or people are just going into toxicity mode, and the few like me who bother to kind of try to find a new equilibrium, synthesis, whatever, we're getting canceled out, etc. I mean, Vico Sota, I feel also for that guy. It must be a very lonely world for Vico. I mean, Vico is just keeping away from everything because whatever it says, it will be used against him by one side, right? So I remember, I don't know, it's a commemoration. People were pulling out what Vico Soto said back in 2016 and saying, oh, why he's not saying anything against Marcos now? So implying something. You get what I'm saying? Like it's I don't know, bro.
The guy's a mayor. His first accountability is to his constituency, right? Not to your national politics, for crying out loud. I mean,
laking problema yun. So kaya nga, part of me is wondering, I'm saying this in public already, like, how are we going to move forward if we allow these toxic people to just keep on doing what they're doing, and they're undermining the whole thing? And I'm saying, even if you're not pro-opposition, if you want a real democracy, there has to be some sort of a real opposition. Otherwise, this is a sham. Why we're even bothering to have a democracy, right?
And they think that democracy, that being a real opposition is saying mali yung ginawa ni Marcos at every turn.
Exactly. Right? That's not real opposition. That's what was the term that we always use? So I'm never mind. I mean, the thing is, I don't know. I mean, because of course I'm constantly looking at other cases, like in Brazil. How did they come together to beat Bolsonaro? I'm watching very carefully what's happening in Turkey, right? I'm also watching how Rahul Gandhi went from a supposedly, part Italian playboy with, I don't know, with Lamborghini, tambay sa Italian embassy 15 years ago, now to becoming kind of like Ninoy, right? He has really, he's really come of age, so now he's being kicked out of the parliament. So I'm looking at it and I'm wondering, like, saan ang Pilipinas dito, pare? Like, woof, right? And I don't have messianic complex. I never had this illusion of, I'll be the guy, this and this. No. I always said this has to be teamwork. It's never gonna work.
I have to go to jiu-jitsu class. I thought I wanted to go, but this conversation, I'm just gonna skip.
Sorry about your jiu-jitsu, bro.
I'm just gonna skip the first jiu-jitsu class because, I mean, there's a second one. I was planning to do two. I'll just go to the second one.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
It's really, it's really, you've hit something here, and I think, if we're gonna bare our souls to our audience, let's kind of just really, bare our souls to our audience, because the question of, this angst over where your country is going is an angst that everybody should deal with, from not just a position, because the problem with partisan politics is you only have angst about where your country is going kung yung kalaban mo yung nasa poder.
Nanalo, exactly.
Kung ikaw yung nasa poder, wala kang angst, di ba? But I would think na kunwari si Lenny yung nasa gobyerno, we would have angst also. Kung si Marcos yung nasa gobyerno, we would have angst also, because that's the nature of just, caring for this country regardless of who's in power. Like, you're anxious about it. And
while trying to be fair, right? And give credit to I mean, it's not like I didn't try to give credit to any of our presidents, but come on. Diba?
Ano ba to? Is this is this just like a kind of an emotional tax you pay for doing what you do?
No, like I think watching the Navalny thing, and then kanina I was listening to this podcast of these Russian exiles, right? And how they're coping with the trauma of seeing their country now being this, butchering people, the other, like, and like it made me suddenly feel vulnerable, politically speaking. It's like not in the like political conscience vulnerability. That's like what I felt, no, like. And I felt there's nothing wrong with feeling that way, and I shouldn't deny it. That a part of me is like feeling like, ano na nangyari sa bansa natin, lelo pag ganito, di ba? Kung ganun na lang tayo, we'll just allow some minority of loud, toxic people, whether on this side or on the other side, to just preventing sanity from prevailing, right? Preventing real movements coming together. Everyone's trying to cancel out everyone else. I mean, and unfortunately, let's be honest, you're the historian here. I mean, like, we have to be anthropologists. Like, unfortunately, Philippines, we haven't had a long history of a consolidated nation state, right? So
Yeah.
like polarization is like the fact of life, right? Like, so I don't know. I'm wondering, like, how is this? Kaya nga, in a way, yung unity ni Marcos, it's not actually very funny. It's a bit tragic. Like, medyo kailangan nga natin ng unity, hindi ba? Yung parang ganun, di ba? At least in some limited ways. I mean, you tell me, like, I just felt this is a conversation that was coming for quite some time, because all of us have our own existential angst in a way because of the situation.
I want to read something from someone I actually hate. The person I actually hate policy wise is this. So I'm gonna read something from his memoir. You know this guy, right?
Of course.
Central Bank Governor Miguel Cuaderno, who I think did real damage to our economy.
He looks like Osmeña there, but yeah.
And who was like the original inflation hawk, and how I hate people who create panics out of inflation, even though inflation is a real problem. But if you demagogue it, it's a problem. And he was the original inflation demagogue. And I hate him, and his opponents like Salvador Araneta hated him. But this is how he ended his memoir. And I think it's exemplary, because even somebody, as odious as this at the time could end in such a classy way. He said, "Now that I'm about to remove myself from the scene of battle, as it were, I wonder whether the bitter conflict of ideas between my critics and me were not due to the fact that we have one thing in common. We were both incapable of suppressing our convictions. We have the same obsession, and that is the achievement of an economically developed Philippines. Where we differ is in the method of reaching this common goal. I want to believe that despite everything that had transpired throughout the great debate, my critics continue to feel as friendly towards me as I do to them." Now, is that a statement that you would get from any Filipino today, right? Yung parang just an acknowledgement of good faith, right?
Gentleman.
Nagbardagulan tayo, but I acknowledge you are my critic, but I acknowledge that you're doing it for the Philippines. I don't think we get that anymore. And this is
you know what now? What they're gonna do? They're gonna screenshot. They're gonna find any fault in what you say and try to use against you to cancel you out, to erase you from the political discussion, to make sure that you have no credibility whatsoever to question them. Except, you cannot do that to me, because like, I get my credibility from really many places. But that's my point. It's bad faith, bro. Bad faith. And this bad faith is really a poison that will really undermine our ability to push the country in the right direction. I'm really worried if some of these charlatans who pretend to be like intellectuals, whatever, I mean, if this is how they approach everything, it's about bad faith, it's about their self-aggrandizement, etc. Good luck sa atin. Good luck sa. I'm not a perfect person. I make spicy comments here and there, and I apologize. I never heard certain people apologizing ever. In fact, I would say in general, one of the shortcomings of the Philippine opposition, liberal opposition, is there's no mea culpa. I've never heard them acknowledging publicly. And I mean, why is election denialism popular? Because it avoids us having serious discussion about ano yung mga kulang at mali dun sa election campaigning strategy. Lenny's great candidate, probably she could have got 20 million votes, even all the cheating and all. But no one wants to talk about, right? So rather, let's talk about other things like cheating, what Namfrel said. That's my point there. There's bad faith and there's refusal for accountability and zero self-awareness. Some of the people coming out there and saying I'm hubristic and all of that, like, dude, look at yourself. You said all of these horrible things during elections, complete fake news stuff. You attack people with complete credibility and all. You came and zero self-awareness about what's happening here. And it's really sad. It's really sad. And the problem is for a lot of these people, the metrics is, I don't know how many shares they got on Twitter or views like that. Like, if you want to play that game, that's the thing. That was never my metric for intellectual courage and political success. So it's really sad, bro. It's really sad. It's really sad. It's like everyone is turning into these entrepreneurs, right? And merchants of canceling, cancel culture, etc. It's a problem. It's a serious problem. I mean, what they did to Isco, right? I mean, I don't agree with Isco on so many levels. I think he had many mistakes and all of that. But some of the tweets, bro, like they were, I won't say racist, but parang diba yung using his Tondo background, his wrong grammar, English, like
Yeah. Classist.
say yun nga, bro, like how are we gonna build a democracy?
Meron akong concrete proposal sa'yo, brother. And I think
go ahead, bro.
I'll do this for every single one of my interviews moving forward. If I get to interview somebody na bago, the last question is always, what have you gotten wrong?
Yeah.
And if they refuse to answer that question, then you are not worth talking to.
Exactly.
If you refuse to answer that question or can't answer that question properly, I think it's the perfect barometer of whether or not people are flexible enough for the kind of debates we're living through. And I'll just say it. I've gotten so many things wrong. I mean, I crack jokes about myself. I used to be a Chavista. I told you this before. In grad school, I used to be a Chavista. I believed in Chavez's Bolivarian Revolution. Nakakatawa na lang yun. And then in grad school, I was also a big firm believer, at least that the cause of Philippine poverty was kind of the anarchy of families, the rent-seeking nature of our country. And then I realized that's such a simple way of looking at it, because there are broader macroeconomic factors that need to be considered, diba? So I changed my mind. I changed my mind because of that. I used to think that the crisis in the 1980s was simply because Ferdinand Marcos stole so much money. I'm wrong. There was a change there. I used to think that the biggest enemy in Mindanao was U.S. imperialism, and I didn't realize that actually in many cases it's the U.S. imperialists who prevent the Philippine government from engaging in acts of violence in Mindanao. And I can go on and on and on about my naivete and what I've done wrong over the years. And I just feel like certain people, like may term sa Tagalog yan hindi papahuling buhay. Diba? Hindi papahuling buhay.
Grabe naman yung term na yan.
Diba? Parang hindi papahuling buhay. I'd rather die.
I know what you're saying, bro.
For you to catch me making a mistake. Right? No, hindi papahuling buhay.
Like you have to drag them out, and I get what you. Wow, that's something. No, I hope even just tactically. Sometimes I'm wondering if I'm doing the right thing with this kind of all energy, fight back, fight here. I think on that level, palang, I already have not naman regrets, because I'm just a human being. Of course, I have emotions, etc. But on that palang, parang I already have doubts about like, am I doing the right thing? And ako, Lele, I'm a very existentialist by nature. Camus was always a natural novelist to me, because I always. Every day I have a little bit time to properly think. Because like, am I making the most out of whatever little talents or whatever platforms I have? I always ask myself every day I ask that, right? I mean, the reason I became vlogger now, I mean, like I go outside sometimes, they identify me as vlogger. Like, oh, ito yung vlogger. Like, and part of me is like, part of me is natutuwa, part of me is like regretting. Like, did I do that? I'm now a vlogger, right? You know what I'm saying?
Ay, nako, dude, you become the first Filipino since Ninoy Aquino to write for Foreign Affairs, and now you are.
So you know what I'm saying, right? So there's a lot of things. How I wish my tone was not as hubristic and arrogant as it is. I just can't help it sometimes. But you know me, like I'll just drop it. At the same time, there's sometimes I wish I were more like you, which is like be a little bit snob sometimes, because I know, I mean, I'm not gonna talk, like sometimes like, why did you even bother to answer to that fool, right? Like, ako bakit talaga, sagutin ko talaga yun. And then sometimes I'm too balahura. So I think I have to be more atenista than diliman, like, so, I'm mali, bro.
That's so third world.
Yeah.
And nakakatawa naman. I think we deserve it sometimes. Sometimes we need to get off some steam, kasi sometimes naman I mean, sometimes in frustration is just like, when the other thing nga pala is we're people who are interested in many things, and we believe that human knowledge cannot be divided into disciplines, and that human knowledge has to be consumed in its totality. So, that kind of position, minsan sasabihin sa'yo, dilettante ka, di ba? Parang lahat pinapatos mo, ganyan. Wala ka na.
Karen! Diba?
Oh, Karen,
I don't know
ganyan.
if you saw it. I interviewed OG Diaz, right? And then Johnny got it.
Oh.
But that's you understand it, right? It's an almost an ADHD thing, right? You just want to talk about everything because it truly excites me. But it might give off the wrong impression na nakikisakay lang ako. I think I hurt the feelings of many people in the Philippine showbiz industry when I said something like level up natin, etc. So I kind of regret the phraseology, but I don't regret the fact that people don't bother to see my subtweets, to read my articles, to even listen to my vlogs. Di kasalanan nyo na yan. It's not like I didn't give you a chance. But at the same time, I also regret of not being artful enough. I mean, that's why like some people tell me like you have like this persona of writing really in high-end magazine and all, and then you have this super balahura person on Twitter. Like and like some people are wondering who's like the ghostwriter of who, and it's like no, both are me. Unfortunately, it's like
No, I get that too because there are people who are like, parang ano, I'm on Twitter a lot and I hear so much about you, and I'm like, I just got this last week, and I'm like, yeah, I'm the devil incarnate, right?
yeah, exactly, yeah.
So, Twitter is a kind of red space, and red, hindi lang naman red space, but malakas sila doon. And I think if there's a mention of me on Twitter or of Joseph Scalise on Twitter, it usually comes from our kind of Maoist friends. And I remember there was one Maoist troll activista sa UP, and I was just like, if you think I'm the devil, have coffee with me, just have coffee with me, tayo lang, and see what you think. And he didn't want to. And I think that's the reason for that is because it's a convenient fiction to have, di ba? Parang, demonyo yan, parang masama yan. If pag kape ka with me, you look me in the eye and you realize I'm not a evil person, then you kind of humanize the person. And I got it this week, somebody said, oh, your Twitter reputation precedes you. And I'm like, oh shit, I guess you think I'm the devil incarnate. Like,
actually nauna ka sa akin.
Like,
actually
what do you think of me now? I'm not mean. Like, I'm actually kind of nice. I think, right?
No, you're not. No, you're not. Come on, bro. You're not nice. Come on.
I'm nice in person. I've never.
If someone gets the chance to talk to you, come on. Come on, Lela. I'll be honest. You can tell me also what's wrong with me. I mean, I give off a lot of wrong aura. No, let's be honest. We were colleagues in Ateneo for what, 2 years? We barely talked. We only talked later on when Tatay was the president.
Brad, kung iupo mo tayo, iba naman yung mahiyain sa hindi mabait. Mahiyain ako actually.
Okay.
Mahiyain ako in person.
Okay, fine. I get it. You're more introvert than me. Okay, I get it. Sure. So I wanted that clarification. But I'm saying that's why madali ka misunderstood. Like my problem is I'm too extrovert for some people. Although we're both actually introverts, right? I'm just more extroverted than introvert. But that's the thing. It's easy for you and me to be misunderstood. But I want to ask you this question, bro. Do you have any regrets? I don't want to put you on the spot, but this whole fight with the red and all, like, is there anything about that you felt could have been handled better? Because how can I put it? Like, because there are a lot of kids who are also attacking me from that side, by the way. No, I'm sure after the Joseph Scalise thing, but because I know a lot of these kids just have good intentions. They want to be part of progressive, that is trapo, liberal, whatever. You gotta get it. And then bigla ako yung kalaban nila or ikaw yung kalaban, parang sad. Or kalaban si Joseph Scalise, which is like the nicest guy out there, right? And we just happen to be the guys who have cojones, like we say what we read about and analyze, right? And we're nice but not polite, or we're polite but not nice, however you want to put it, right? I don't know. Do you have something? Because a part of me sometimes feel like, dapat di ko kaway itong mga to eh. Kasi at the end of the day, gusto rin natin yung iba eh. Ayaw natin yung trapo politics, trapo liberals, trapo yung mga ganun. I don't know. Sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot, but a part of me wondered, like, do you think along those lines? Because a part of me has like sometimes, why am I fighting even some of these people? I don't need to fight. Why did it reach a point where these people will have these impressions of me, or I'll be their better, right? Now, ibang usapan, Leloy, if some of them are just haters, right? Envy, whatever, okay? Hindi naman ako feeling. But I'm sure there are people who are gonna hate you and me just for obvious reasons, right? Right, these guys, for them, probably they think we got it easy in life, right? They don't know how hard we work to be where we are. Like, but no, those are who are non-haters, who have negative views of you, who not because of because sila elegant, no, because they feel you are you contributed to hysteria or more than that. I'm sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot, but this is kind of an opening moment, right? This is anyway.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm just giving you lead time.
Regrets. I kind of regret. I don't know. I kind of regret engaging in major Facebook debates nung time na yun.
Yeah,
Kasi yung mga
I
time
agree with
sync,
you.
Facebook debates like that.
Mhm.
I kind of regret like voicing my anti-communism there, because that's where I would have my slippages. That's where I would just
Correct.
say like crazy ass Reds, ganyan, or commies. Like I use like really maanghang language that did make me like parang I was kind of lampooning myself using deliberately McCarthyite language
Easy
to just
target.
kind of spice things up. And I think that kind of detracted from my point, which was like
Exactly. Yeah.
students and elect voters should find out if they are either joining an organization that's affiliated with the Communist Party of the Philippines because lives are at risk, or voting for an organization that's affiliated with the Communist Party of the Philippines, because I think that's a kind of democratic deficit right there. Yun lang naman yung point ko, di ba? Kunwari, may party list or may organization na malapit sa komunista, hindi alam ng mga tao kasi yung pangalan ng partido nila has nothing to do with the Maoists, right? And so a regular voter will look at that and is like, oh, it's just an NGO that became a party list. Di naman nila alam na may connection with an armed movement, and then they vote for it. And that was just my goal, like information, right? Information.
But that's the
And
thing,
for
Lele. I mean,
students, also information also, because alam mo, madala ka sa red area, tapos next thing you know, parang nakulong ka, or heaven forbid, napatay ka sa isang enkwentro. Yun lang naman eh. I mean,
yeah.
that was actually my biggest concern at the time, and I think I could have gotten that message across if I used more diplomatic language, and didn't do it on Facebook. Did it through more considered articles, longer pieces, and maybe even interviews, or frankly, I know discussions with students, because I am a teacher, so I should
Exactly.
have been doing most of that stuff not on Facebook, but in private discussions with my Ateneo and my
But
LaSalle
yun nga,
students.
Leloy, di ba? That's the point. We're not in Paris, right? I'll just be brutally honest. We're not in Paris, right? So, you know, or at least not post-war Paris, whereby you're an intellectual, you say something, the television, the radio, everyone bothers to break it down. What is the latest things that Sartre said? Stuff, let's be honest, we don't have that set up here. So I think sometimes I'm being sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes perhaps there's this temptation to be a little bit more spicy than you should be in order to just get the ball rolling. And then your hope
Yeah,
is once the ball got rolled, then you can show them the lay of the land. You get what I'm saying?
yeah,
I'm using too much
yeah,
metaphor.
yeah,
You
yeah,
you
yeah,
know this even earlier than me, right? Because
yeah,
you
yeah,
know some crazy stuff even ahead of me, and your spice is even more than my spice, right? I'm
yeah, yeah.
I'm like Italian spice or like Indian spice sometimes.
Gago. Hindi,
Diba?
yun nga, I thought,
To be honest,
it
hindi ba
has,
frustration mo yan sometimes? Because ako, let's be honest, like how many stuff have you written? Like I've probably written 2,000 articles. How many books we have written?
and not as much as you,
But
ako
that's my point,
late.
bro. How many people really bother to read it? Abroad, probably I'm well read, but I don't know. Sorry, probably part of us is saying your way of reaching out to the not so reading audience here is say something a little bit spicy, then bring them in, and
Okay.
that's where
Okay,
things go wrong.
I kind of want to do a kind of intellectual history of this, because we remember we're millennials, and so we're old millennials. So when we started writing, ang kalaban mo pa sa newspaper columns and also sa online at that time were the boomers, the old boomers, who had lorded it over the intellectual scene for a very long time. I mean,
Right.
this was a problem in the United States. This was also a problem with the Philippines,
Correct.
because the boomers, diba, parang youth eternal yung mga yan, because they came into of age in the 60s and 70s, and they thought they were so radical, and they thought they were changing the world. Are you still there? Oh yeah. And when once they got there, they kind of hung on, and they dictated kind of the intellectual trends for a very long time. And in
Right.
order for you to penetrate the kind of boomer space, this is like 2010s, late 2000s, the only way to do it as a 20-year-old is to say something spicy, right? That was the only way to do it. Otherwise, hindi ka talaga papansinin. And this was early. We didn't know yet the effects of social media, and how social media twisted the way you said things. Like, at that time, maaliw ka sa hits, and you could deceive yourself into thinking that, hits and shares mean impact. Hindi pa natin alam yung, the kind of science behind social media and how it makes you say things that you don't really need to say. And so I think it was also timing. Like parang ang sama ng timing ng start. Ewan kung start mo, but definitely start ko. And that kind of timing, I had to grow out of it. And there are certain things I said from that time that I'll never recover from. I think somebody did that. I just got a note one day that meron akong tinirang isang publication from that time when I was in GMA, and somebody told me they still remember that. I'm like,
that's the problem. Yeah,
like,
that's the
15
problem.
years ago, man. Like that's fine, pero meron talaga merong sense nung time na yun that this is what you had to do. And if I could, like, since medyo matagal na rin tayo sa space na to, like if I could give advice to people who are just coming up, it's like, don't fall into that trap of parang using spice and using polemicism to get your way immediately. Like pick your battles, right? Sometimes a good polemical article is absolutely necessary. But like I would say, maybe if I could do it again, like when I started, my first column was kind of GMA News. I'm proud of the articles there, but I would say like my articles were like maybe 4 out of 5 polemical. If I were to do it again, it would be 2 out of 5 polemical, right? And then 3, and then the other 3 would kind of like just be like cute, reflective, exploratory, ganyan. I think that's a good balance. Like that's how I would redo it. Yeah.
This is where I want to be also fair to you and to us, right? I mean, well, we're not that young anymore, but let's be honest. I mean, like when you're young, a part of you, hindi naman affirmation per se, right? But you want to get some signal that you're not saying something totally stupid, right? So sometimes you tend to equate validity of your argument to the traction you're getting for it, right?
Yes.
I started as a blogger for Huffington Post, right? So that's my origin stories, right? And I also got viral for some of my blogs before, but they were kind of the spicy one, but not totally too spicy, right? I would still quote like Fukuyama there or Hegel, right? But still, bro, I mean, yun nga, like I want to be also fair to us, especially our younger self in our 20s, right? Which wanted, these are, let's be honest, ganito na lang, like, okay, the reason why Navalny is someone that constantly, not man hunts, but I remember there's something this The Economist journalist said. He said Navalny chose potential death over political death, right? He couldn't fathom himself just being another exiled Russian emigre. Even if he knew most likely he would be jailed forever or worse, he still chose to go back to Russia because that at least made sure he will be politically alive, right? Perhaps even immortal, right? Now, I'm not saying we're Navalny or anything like that. We don't want to be, but I'm saying like a part of you sometimes feels I rather have the risk of saying something stupid and having a lot of enemies than being the guy who produced nothing of relevance or traction throughout his entire decades of productivity, right?
That's true.
Right? I mean, for all
that's your priority.
I would just say I still did a lot of great stuff in my 20s that I'm proud of, right? I still got myself into the conversation. And probably not the best way. I know you remember you told me like some people thought I was a little bit too self-promoting, but I'll use the same argument. If you don't promote yourself at first, right? No, you're not even gonna exist, right? But eventually, I got the chance to prove that there is a substance behind all of that, right? But yun nga, I want to be also fair to myself, to my younger self, and I want to be fair to your younger self. And parang therapy na ito.
Oo nga. Hindi.
Iba na to. I have to charge you.
Meron akong isang alas though, and I'm not gonna speak for you, but tell me if this resonates with you. Never ako ginustong magkaroon ng posisyon. Takot ako magkaroon ng posisyon. Maybe when I retire, and my academic career is over, and somebody says, you want to become head of CHED. Hanggang ganun lang. Become a major cabinet minister. And I guess I'm too shy to run for any elected office.
Why would you say that? I mean, you're a public speaker. You are charismatic, at least for some people. Like, don't you think it's natural for you? I mean, for me, my template is Seneca, right? You have to be a philosopher, a statesman, a flashy guy, but man of letters, very important. Use your intellect. Like,
ewan ko kasi
idol ko na.
I remember even in college, I was just like, we were one of the main debaters of the Ateneo Debate Society. Do you want to become Ateneo Debate Society president? I'm like, no, I hate administrative work. In university context, like, all the people around me, they want, lalo na sa Pilipinas, they want to become promoted, and promoted doesn't mean promoted to like associate professor or professor. Promoted means becoming department chair. And I was just like, that sounds like the worst job in the world. Never ako ginustong magkaroon ng posisyon. Side note, my theory of Philippine academia is that Philippine academia, the moment the maturity for Philippine academia will occur at that time when people no longer go into Philippine academia wanting to become chairs and deans.
Yeah, and deans.
That's when that is when Philippine academia has matured, because that means they're going to academia because they want to become researchers. Anyway, so I never wanted positions, and I think that's a medyo ala sa akin yun, because I don't have to please anyone when I'm writing anything. Kasi I understand there are some people, parang, why were some people so psychophantic towards candidate XYZ? Kutsi naghanap ng posisyon yan eh, kung manalo. Why were some people so depressed nung natalo yung kandidato nila? Kasi ibig sabihin nun, hindi sila magiging secretary or deputy ni ganyan, parang ako wala akong ganun. Yun yung alas ko, never ayoko talaga ng posisyon.
It's just because you don't want to be constrained. It's not like you don't like responsibility, right?
The
fact that you're married, that means you're not shirking from responsibility, right? No, I mean
that work does not appeal to me on an intellectual level, but also I don't think my skill set is ideal for that. Who knows? Who knows? If I'm 70 and I'm bored, and this is like the last chapter of my career, and there's a really great president say, I want to appoint you somewhere, I'm not going to seek it out. But if it comes, tapos talagang may opportunity to serve, I'd probably say yes. But it's not something I look for, and that's I think my secret sauce, that wala akong hidden agenda.
But in your 40s, let's say Philippines will have a good president or something like that, would you be open? Let's say Vico Soto is the president in next elections.
I would seriously never angle for a position.
Yeah, but you'll be open if ever something appropriate to you is offered.
I'm not sure.
Is offered to you, like what if NEDA is offered to you, right? Because by that time, I suppose you have two economic historian.
Hindi ko talaga kaya. Kailan may kaya naman mag-math, mag-NEDA. Diyos ko.
Si Recto nag-NEDA, di ba?
Well,
si Raf Recto, di ba? I'm not sure. Forget about that.
The most consequential position I've ever thought myself having is like a minor position. Somewhere related to education. That's the most like.
Trabaho ni Sarah All.
Di ba yun eh? The only government work I've done is like I helped Ched develop some of the new curriculum.
Exactly. That's perfect. And you're working in a state university now, Berkeley, which is very bureaucratic. So I think you're perfectly suited for it down the road. So just lang. Thank you so much, bro. I really appreciate this. I hope I was not unfair putting you too much on the spot, because I tried to.
Okay lang.
Diba, I kind of spilled it out first. Para hindi mo sabihin itong si Richard na pinaano lang ako. But I just felt some people who bother to see the human in us, because I'm sure people think we're just two nerds who just enjoying all of. No, we may be nerds in certain way, but we're human beings. We get hurt. We have our frustration, etc. That's why we're doing this. I really appreciate it, bro. I hope we made up more than enough for losing the first session of jiu-jitsu. But please be careful. Wash soap, ha? Yun yung mga session, doon ako natakot eh. Sa UFC din tayo natapos, di ba?
Okay. All right, brother.
Someone.
You have a great
God
week.
bless. Talk to you
soon. See ya. Ingat.
Adios.